Captain Jake Miller stood on the bridge of the Defiant, watching the stars streak past through the main screen. His ship was moving faster than light, jumping between solar systems like a stone skipping across water. The crew called it riding, the quantum wave, but Jake just called it amazing. The Defiant was not like other ships in space. While most alien vessels looked smooth and perfect, the human ship looked rough and patched together. Pipes ran along the walls, exposed wires sparked sometimes, and the engines made strange noises that worried other species. But Jake loved his ship. She was tough, smart, and always found a way to keep going. "Captain," called Tom from the navigation station. "We're coming up on the Kepler 442 system. Should we drop out of light speed?" Jake nodded. "Take us out of jump, Tom. Let's see what's waiting for us." The stars stopped moving, and space became still again. In front of them was a yellow sun with several planets orbiting around it. The third planet looked green and blue. It had water and maybe life. "Run a full scan," Jake ordered. "I want to know everything about this system." Lisa, the science officer, worked at her station. Numbers and pictures filled her screen. "Captain, I'm reading strange energy patterns from the fourth planet. It's covered in metal structures, but they're old. Really old." Jake walked over to look at her screen. The fourth planet was red and rocky, but Lisa was right. Metal buildings covered the surface like a giant city, but they looked empty and broken. "Any life signs?" Jake asked. "None," Lisa replied, "but the technology is advanced. More advanced than anything we've seen before. This was why the Galactic Council called human ships dangerous. Other species followed rules. They asked permission before exploring new places. They waited for approval before studying unknown technology. But humans were curious. They saw something interesting and went to investigate." "Set course for the fourth planet," Jake ordered. "We're going to take a closer look." The Defiant moved toward the mysterious world. As they got closer, the metal structures became clearer. They were huge towers and bridges, all connected together like a giant web, but everything was dark and empty. "Captain," said Mike from the communication station, "I'm picking up a signal. It's weak, but it's definitely artificial." "Can you clean it up?" Jake asked. Mike worked for several minutes, adjusting dials and pressing buttons. Slowly, the signal became stronger. It was not words or music, it was numbers and patterns repeating over and over. "It's a warning," Lisa said suddenly. She had been studying the signal on her own screen. "The patterns, they're showing star maps, and there are symbols that mean danger." Jake felt a chill run down his back. "Warning about what?" Before Lisa could answer, the ship's alarm began ringing. Red lights flashed on the bridge. "Captain," Tom shouted from his station. "3 ships just appeared on our sensors. They're big and they're moving fast toward us." Jake looked at the main screen. 3 massive ships were approaching. They were sleek and silver with no visible weapons, but they moved with purpose and speed. "Any idea who they are?" Jake asked. "Checking the database now," Mike replied. He worked quickly, comparing the ship designs to known alien species. "Got it. They're Keth Dominion vessels. And Captain, they're not here to say hello." Jake knew about the Keth. They were one of the most powerful species in the galaxy. They controlled hundreds of worlds and had rules for everything. They believed that order and control were the most important things in the universe. "Incoming transmission," Mike announced. "Put it on screen," Jake ordered. The main screen changed to show a tall, thin alien. Its skin was gray and smooth, and its eyes were large and black. When it spoke, its voice was cold and emotionless. "Human vessel, you are in violation of Galactic Council Protocol 447. You are exploring restricted space without proper authorization. You will cease your activities immediately and return to your home system." Jake stood up straight. "This is Captain Jake Miller of the Earth ship Defiant. We're conducting peaceful exploration in unclaimed space. We haven't violated any treaties." The alien's expression did not change. "Human activities are unpredictable and dangerous. Your species does not follow proper procedures. You investigate things that should be left alone. You ask questions that should not be asked. Since when is curiosity a crime? Jake replied. Since it threatens the stability of civilized space, the alien answered. You will depart immediately, or we will remove you by force. Jake looked around. His bridge. His crew was ready for whatever came next. Tom had his hand on the weapons controls. Lisa was recording everything for Earth's databases. Mike was monitoring the Keth ships for any signs of aggression. We're not leaving, Jake said, firmly. We have the right to explore free space. The alien was quiet for a moment. Then it spoke again. Human, you do not understand. Your species is young and reckless. You do not see the bigger picture. There are things in this universe that must be controlled. There are secrets that must be kept. Your people threaten that control. What secrets? Jake demanded. What are you so afraid of? The alien cut the transmission. The screen went black. Captain, Tom said urgently. The Keth ships are powering up their weapons. Jake sat back in his captain's chair. This was the moment that would change everything. He could order his ship to retreat, to follow the Keth demands and return to, say, Earth. It would be the safe choice, the smart choice, but that's not what humans did. Lisa, are you still recording the signal from the planet? Jake asked. Yes, Captain. I'm getting everything. Good. Send it all to Earth immediately. Include our location and what the Keth just told us. Transmission sent, Lisa confirmed. Jake turned to Tom. Charge the weapons and raise shields. If they want to fight, we'll give them one. The Defiant was smaller than the Keth ships, but it was fast and tough. Human engineering was different from alien technology. Where other species built ships to be perfect and efficient, humans built ships to survive and adapt. Captain, Mike said, I'm reading energy buildup on all 3 Keth vessels. They're about to fire. Jake gripped his chair arms. Tom, evasive maneuvers. Lisa, keep scanning that planet. Whatever secret they're protecting down there, we're going to find out what it is. The first Keth ship fired. A beam of bright blue. Energy shot toward the Defiant. Tom spun the ship hard to the left and the beam missed by a few hundred meters. Return fire, Jake ordered. The Defiant's weapons lit up space with red plasma bolts. They struck the lead Keth ship, causing its shields to flicker and spark. Direct hit, Tom reported. Their shields are down to 60%. But the other 2 Keth ships were firing now. The Defiant shook as energy beams hit its hull. Sparks flew from control panels, and the lights flickered. Shields down to 40%, Mike called out. Jake knew they couldn't win this fight, with firepower alone. The Keth had bigger ships and more weapons, but humans had something the Keth didn't understand. They were unpredictable. Lisa, what's the status on that planet signal? Still recording, Captain, but I'm getting something else now. The energy patterns are changing. It's like the planet is responding to our presence. Or to the battle, Jake realized. Tom, take us closer to the planet. Stay between us and the Keth ships. That's dangerous, Captain. If we get too close to those structures, do it, Jake ordered. The Defiant dove toward the mysterious world. The Keth ships followed, still firing. But as they got closer to the planet, something strange happened. The metal structures began to glow. Captain, Lisa said with excitement in her voice, the planet's technology is activating. It's like it's been waiting for someone to find it. Or waiting for the right circumstances, Jake said. He had a crazy idea. Tom, can you put us in orbit around the planet right above the largest structure? Yes, but the Keth will have a clear shot at us. That's what I'm counting on, Jake said with a grim smile. The Defiant dropped into low orbit. The Keth ships followed, positioning themselves to attack. But as they prepared to fire their final shots, the planet's ancient technology suddenly came fully online. A massive energy pulse erupted from the surface, washing over all 4 ships. The Keth vessels were caught completely off guard. Their weapons powered down, their engines stopped, and they began to drift helplessly in space. But the Defiant was still running. Human technology was chaotic and unpredictable, just like humans themselves. The ancient energy pulse couldn't shut down systems that didn't follow logical patterns. Now I understand, Jake said quietly. This isn't just about us being dangerous, it's about us being free. The planet below was sending a new signal now. Not a warning this time, but information. Data about the Keth Dominion, about their secret wars, about the species they had destroyed for being too unpredictable. Jake looked at his crew. They were all thinking the same thing. They had stumbled onto something big, something that could change the balance of power in the galaxy. But first they had to survive. Lisa, get all this data to Earth, everything we've learned about the Keth and this planet. Already on it, Captain. Jake stared at the disabled Keth ships. He knew they would recover soon, and when they did, they would be very angry. The Defiant had proven that humans were more than just dangerous. They were a threat to everything the Keth believed in. Tom, as soon as their systems come back online, we're going to have company. Get us ready to run. Where to, Captain? Jake smiled. Home. We need to warn Earth about what's coming. As the ancient technology's pulse faded, the Keth ships began to stir. Their engines sparked back to life, and their weapons started to charge again. But by then, the Defiant was already gone, jumping back into light speed and racing toward Earth with the most important message in human history. The Keth had called them dangerous. Now they were about to find out just how dangerous humans could really be. The Defiant had been running for 3 days. Jake Miller sat in his captain's chair watching the stars fly by on the main screen. His ship was fast, but the Keth were faster. They had been chasing him since the incident at the ancient planet. Captain, Tom called from the navigation station. The Keth ships are gaining on us. They'll be in weapons range in about an hour. Jake rubbed his tired eyes. His crew had been working around the clock trying to stay ahead of their pursuers, but the Keth had more ships now. What started as 3 vessels had become an entire fleet. How many are there? Jake asked. 15 ships, Lisa replied from her science station. All of them bigger than us, and Captain, they're not trying to capture us anymore. Their weapon signatures show full combat readiness. Jake understood what that meant. The Keth weren't planning to arrest them or force them to surrender. They wanted to destroy the Defiant and everyone on board. Any word from Earth? Jake asked Mike at communications. Nothing yet, Captain. The data package we sent should have reached them by now, but it's too far to receive a reply. Jake looked around his bridge. His crew was tired but determined. They had discovered something important about the Keth, and now they were paying the price for it. But none of them regretted their choice to investigate. Captain, Tom said urgently, the Keth fleet just jumped to light speed. They're trying to get ahead of us. They want to cut us off, Jake realized. Lisa, scan for any nearby systems where we can hide. Lisa worked at her station, but after a few minutes she shook her head. There's nothing, Captain. The nearest star system is 2 days away, and it's in the direction the Keth are heading. Jake made a decision. Drop us out of light speed, we'll make our stand here. In empty space? Tom asked. Better than being trapped in a gravity well, Jake replied. At least here we can maneuver. The Defiant dropped back into normal space. Around them was nothing but darkness and distant stars. It was a lonely place to fight, but it was their choice. Within minutes, the Keth fleet appeared. 15 massive ships arranged themselves in a perfect attack formation. They were beautiful in their own way, sleek, silver, and deadly. The lead ship opened communications. The same gray alien from before appeared on screen, but this time his expression was different. Before he had seemed cold and official. Now, he looked angry. Captain Miller, the alien said, you have seen things that were not meant for your species. You have data that threatens the stability of the galaxy. This ends now. We're explorers, Jake replied. We were just investigating an abandoned planet. We didn't hurt anyone. You hurt the natural order, the alien said. Your species does not understand the responsibilities that come with knowledge. You are chaos given form. You cannot be allowed to spread your influence. What are you so afraid of? Jake demanded. What did we find on that planet that scares you so much? The alien was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke in a voice filled with certainty. Evidence of our mistakes. Proof that we are not as perfect as we claim to be. Your species would use this knowledge to challenge our authority. Maybe your authority needs to be challenged. Jake said. The alien cut the transmission. A moment later, all 15 Keth ships opened fire. The space around the Defiant lit up with deadly energy. Blue beams and plasma bolts filled the darkness. Jake's ship spun and twisted, trying to avoid the barrage. "Shields down to 70%, Mike shouted over the noise of alarms. "Return fire," Jake ordered. "Target their lead ship." The Defiant's weapons blazed, sending red plasma bolts at the Keth formation. But one small ship against 15 large ones was not a fair fight. For every hit they scored, the Keth landed 10. "Captain!" Lisa yelled. "Hull breach on deck 5. Emergency bulkheads are sealing, but we're losing atmosphere." Jake felt his ship shudder under the constant bombardment. The Keth weren't just trying to destroy them quickly. They were taking their time, systematically targeting each system. "They're not just attacking us," Jake realized. "They're dissecting us. They want to see how our technology works before they finish us off." Another volley of energy beams struck the Defiant. This time, the ship's lights flickered and went out for several seconds. When they came back on, half the control panels were sparking. "Shields down to 30%, Mike reported. "Weapons are offline, main engines are failing." Jake looked at his crew. They were all injured now. Tom had a cut on his forehead from a falling cable. Lisa's station was smoking from an overload. Mike was holding his arm where a piece of debris had hit him, but they were still fighting. "Atlas," Jake called to the ship's AI. "What's our status?" The computer's voice was calm despite the chaos around them. "Captain, structural integrity is at 40% and falling. Life support is operating at reduced capacity. Weapon systems are offline and cannot be repaired with current resources. How long do we have?" "At current damage rates, the ship will be destroyed in approximately 8 minutes. Jake closed his eyes. 8 minutes. Not enough time to escape. Not enough time to repair their weapons. Not enough time to call for help. But maybe enough time for one last act of defiance. "Atlas, can you override the safety protocols on the quantum drive?" The AI paused. "Captain, that would cause a cascade failure. The explosion would destroy this ship and anything within a 5-kilometer radius. Including that lead Keth ship, if we get close enough," Jake said. His crew turned to look at him. They understood what he was suggesting. It was suicide, but it might be their only chance to strike back. "Captain," Tom said quietly, "my wife is expecting our first child next month." "I know," Jake replied. "Lisa, you were supposed to start your doctorate program when we got back to Earth." "Yes, sir," Lisa said with tears in her eyes. "Mike, you were going to propose to Anna when we returned." Mike nodded, unable to speak. Jake looked at each of them. "I'm not ordering anyone to stay. The escape pods are still functional. You can abandon ship." Tom was the first to respond. "With respect, Captain, go to hell." Lisa laughed despite everything. "We're not leaving you, Jake. We're in this together." Mike wiped his eyes and turned back to his station. "Besides, someone needs to make sure this data gets to Earth. Atlas, can you boost the transmission array?" "Affirmative. I can route power from the failing life support systems." Jake felt a surge of pride in his crew. This was what made humans dangerous, not their weapons or their technology, but their willingness to sacrifice everything for what they believed in. "Tom, set course for the lead Keth ship. Full impulse." "Aye, Captain. It's been an honor serving with you." The Defiant turned toward its target. The Keth seemed to realize what was happening because their fire intensified. Energy beams tore through the ship's hull, starting fires in multiple sections. "Hull breach on deck 3, Lisa reported. "Fire spreading through the forward compartments." "Abandon the forward sections," Jake ordered. "Seal all bulkheads." The ship was burning now. Jake could smell smoke on the bridge. The Keth were literally setting his ship on fire, just as they had planned all along. 2 kilometers to target, Tom announced. "Atlas, prepare for quantum drive overload," Jake commanded. "Captain," the AI said, "I want you to know that serving with this crew has been an honor. I will ensure the data reaches Earth." "Thank you, Atlas. Send the message." The AI's transmission was powerful, boosted by energy from the dying ship. It shot out into space, carrying everything they had learned about the Keth and their secret war against unpredictable species. 1 kilometer to target, Tom said. The lead Keth ship was trying to move away, but it was too late. The Defiant was coming too fast, driven by the last of its failing engines. Atlas, execute quantum overload. Overload initiated, cascade failure in 5 seconds. Jake looked at his crew one more time. Tell me something good. Lisa smiled through her tears. The data transmission reached Earth. They know everything now. That's all we needed, Jake said. The Defiant struck the Keth ship just as its quantum drive exploded. The explosion was visible. From several light years away, a brilliant flash that lit up the darkness of space. When the light faded, both ships were gone. But the remaining Keth ships had a problem. Their flagship was destroyed, their admiral was dead, and somewhere in the darkness of space a human transmission was racing toward Earth. The Keth had won the battle, but they had no idea what was coming next. On Earth, the data package arrived at the Global Defense Network headquarters. Scientists and military officers gathered around screens, reading the final transmission from the Defiant. The message was clear. Humanity was not alone in the galaxy, and they had just made a very powerful enemy. But Jake Miller and his crew had done more than just deliver a warning. They had shown the Keth something terrifying, that humans would rather die fighting than live in fear. The Keth called them dangerous. Now they were about to learn just how dangerous a species could be when it had nothing left to lose. In the weeks that followed, the Keth would make their next move. They would target Jake's family, thinking that destroying his loved ones would send a message to Earth. They had no idea that this single act would wake up something in humanity that had been sleeping since they first reached for the stars. The age of human exploration was about to end. The age of human war was about to begin. High Admiral Vex of the Keth Dominion sat in his command chair, looking at the report from the destroyed human ship. The battle had cost them their flagship and nearly 200 crew members, but the threat was eliminated. The troublesome human vessel was nothing but space dust now. A minor inconvenience, Vex said to his second-in-command. One small ship causing so much trouble. Humans are even more chaotic than our report suggested. Commander Nix nodded in agreement. Should we send more ships to monitor the human home? System, Admiral? Vex waved a dismissive hand. Unnecessary. What can one primitive species do against the might of the Keth Dominion? We have eliminated thousands of species over the centuries. Humans are no different. The truth was, the Keth had been expanding across the galaxy for over 1 million years. They had perfected the art of conquest through careful planning and overwhelming force. When they encountered a species that showed signs of being unpredictable or chaotic, they eliminated them quickly and efficiently. Humans were just the latest in a long line of species that had to be removed for the greater good of galactic order. Besides, Vex continued, it will take the humans decades to develop space travel capable of reaching our territory. By then, we will have consolidated our recent conquests and expanded our fleet. This was how the Keth operated. They would identify a threat, eliminate it decisively, then return to their normal routines while their empire digested the new territory. It was a system that had worked for millennia. Prepare the hibernation chambers, Vex ordered. We have earned our rest. The Keth were a species that hibernated after major military campaigns. It was both a biological need and a cultural tradition. After the stress of battle, their bodies required months of deep sleep to recover fully. What about patrols along the border? Commander Nix asked. Leave a skeleton crew, Vex replied. A few ships to watch for any signs of human activity, but I doubt we'll see anything from them for many years, if ever. Within a week, most of the Keth military leadership had entered hibernation. Their massive ships drifted in space, powered down to minimal systems. Only a handful of junior officers remained awake to monitor their territory. The Keth called it the victory sleep, a time of rest and celebration after successfully eliminating another chaotic species. They had done it so many times before that it had become routine, but they had made a critical mistake. They assumed that humans were like every other species they had encountered, slow to respond, limited in their technology, and easily intimidated. They had no idea that Jake Miller's final transmission was already causing chaos on Earth. General Sarah Chen stood in the war room of the Global Defense Network, staring at the holographic display showing Jake's final message. The room was filled with military officers, scientists, and government officials from every nation on Earth. "Play it again," she ordered. The message began once more. Jake's voice was calm despite the explosions and alarms in the background of his ship. "This is Captain Jake Miller of the Earth vessel Defiant. We have encountered a hostile alien species called the Keth Dominion. They consider humanity a threat to galactic stability because we are unpredictable. They have destroyed our ship and are planning to eliminate our entire species." The hologram showed the data Jake had collected: star maps, Keth ship designs, and most importantly, evidence of their systematic genocide campaigns. "The Keth have done this before," Jake's voice continued. "They've destroyed dozens of intelligent species across the galaxy, all in the name of maintaining order. They see us as chaos that needs to be eliminated." General Chen paused the message and looked around the room. "How long ago did we receive this?" 18 hours, replied Dr. Martinez, the head of the space program. "Our long-range scanners have detected no immediate threats, but that doesn't mean much. According to this data, the Keth have technology far beyond ours." "What about Captain Miller's family?" asked Admiral Brooks. "Have they been notified?" "His wife Emma and their twin children are living on Haven Colony," General Chen replied. "We've sent a message, but it'll take time to reach them. The colony is 3 weeks away by our fastest ships." President Williams leaned forward at the conference table. "General, what are our options?" Chen brought up a new display showing Earth's military capabilities. "Honestly, Mr. President, we're not prepared for this kind of threat. Our space fleet consists of 12 exploration vessels and 6 military patrol ships. The Keth, according to this data, have thousands of ships." "So we surrender?" asked Senator Lopez. "Like hell we do," Admiral Brooks replied firmly. "Captain Miller died getting us this information. We're not going to waste his sacrifice." Dr. Martinez stood up and walked to the display. "Actually, we might have more advantages than we think. Look at this data carefully. The Keth technology is advanced, but it's also predictable. Their ships all follow the same basic design patterns. Their weapons all use similar energy signatures." "What's your point?" General Chen asked. "My point is that they're used to fighting species that think like they do. Logical, orderly, predictable. But humans don't think that way. We're chaotic, creative, and we adapt quickly." President Williams nodded. "What do you need?" "Time," Dr. Martinez replied. "And resources. If we can reverse engineer some of their technology from Captain Miller's scans, we might be able to develop countermeasures." "How much time?" Admiral Brooks asked. 6 months minimum. A year would be better." General Chen looked at the star maps, showing Keth territory. "According to this data, their nearest major base is 8 months away at maximum speed. If they decide to attack Earth directly, we'll have warning." "What if they don't attack directly?" Senator Lopez asked. "What if they target our colonies first?" The room fell silent. Earth had 17 colony worlds, scattered across nearby star systems. Most of them had small populations and minimal defenses. "We need to warn them all," President Williams decided, "and we need to start building a real space fleet." Over the next few days, Earth transformed. What had been a peaceful planet focused on exploration and scientific advancement became a world preparing for war. Factories that had been building civilian spacecraft were converted to military production. Scientists who had been studying distant stars began developing new weapons. The change wasn't just technological, it was cultural. Humans had always been explorers, but now they were becoming soldiers. Dr. Martinez worked around the clock with his team, analyzing every piece of data from the Defiant. They learned about Keth shield technology, their faster-than-light engines, and their plasma weapons. "The key is their overconfidence," Dr. Martinez explained to the military commanders. "They've been the dominant species for so long that they can't imagine being challenged. Look at their ship designs. They're built for overwhelming firepower, not for fighting an unpredictable enemy." General Chen studied the tactical analysis. "What kind of unpredictable?" "Human unpredictable," Dr. Martinez smiled. "We don't follow Their rules. We don't fight the way they expect. We improvise, we adapt, and we never give up. Meanwhile, the Global Defense Network began implementing Project Hornet's Nest, a plan to prepare Earth for an alien invasion. Every major city was equipped with orbital defense platforms. Military bases were built on the Moon and Mars. Most importantly, humanity began building a new type of spacecraft. The new ships didn't look like anything the Keth had ever seen. Where alien vessels were smooth and symmetrical, human ships were angular and aggressive. They carried weapons that violated conventional physics and defensive systems that defied logic. But the most important change was happening in the minds of humanity. For the first time in centuries, the entire species was united against a common threat. National boundaries became meaningless, political differences were set aside, religious conflicts were forgotten. Jake Miller had given them more than just intelligence about the enemy. He had given them purpose. 3 months after receiving his message, Earth launched its first squadron of military vessels. They were fast, heavily armed, and crewed by volunteers who understood that they might not come home. 6 months after the battle, humanity had built a fleet of over 100 warships. They were still outnumbered by the Keth, but they had something their enemy didn't expect: the willingness to fight dirty. While the Keth slept peacefully in their hibernation chambers, confident that they had eliminated another minor threat, humanity was becoming something the galaxy had never seen before: an entire species motivated by grief, united by purpose, and absolutely determined to make their enemies pay for what they had done. The Keth had called humans dangerous because they were unpredictable. They had no idea just how dangerous humans could become when they had nothing left to lose. Admiral Vex and his commanders continued their short nap, dreaming of past victories and future conquests. They assumed they had months, maybe years, before humanity could pose any real threat. They were wrong. The hornet's nest was stirring, and when it finally erupted, the Keth were going to discover what happened when you killed a human's family. Emma Miller stood in her garden on Haven Colony, watching her 8-year-old twins play among the flowers. The morning sun felt warm on her face, and she could hear the sounds of the small farming community waking up around her. It had been 7 months since Jake's ship had gone missing. 7 months since the last transmission from the Defiant. The official report said, "Lost in deep space exploration." But Emma knew her husband better than that. Jake would have found a way to send word if he was still alive. "Mom," called out Ben, her son. "Look what Anna found." Emma walked over to where her daughter was kneeling by the vegetable patch. Anna held up a small, colorful bug with delicate wings. "It's beautiful, sweetheart," Emma said, kneeling down beside them. "But we should let it go back to its family." Anna gently released the bug, watching it fly away. "Do you think Dad found bugs like this on other planets?" Emma's heart ached. She had tried to explain to the children that their father might not be coming home, but they still asked about him every day. "I'm sure he did," Emma replied. "Your father loved discovering new things." The peaceful moment was interrupted by a loud rumbling sound from the sky. Emma looked up to see 3 large silver ships descending through the clouds. They were unlike anything she had ever seen, sleek, metallic, and clearly not human in design. "Mom, what are those?" Ben asked, pointing at the ships. Emma felt a cold fear in her stomach. Haven Colony was far from Earth's main shipping routes. They rarely had visitors and never ships like these. "Children, go inside the house. Now," Emma said firmly. "But Mom—" "Now," she repeated, her voice sharp with urgency. The twins ran toward their small farmhouse while Emma watched the alien ships land in the field outside the colony. Other families were coming out of their homes, pointing and talking in confused voices. Mayor Davidson came running up to Emma. "Mrs. Miller, have you ever seen ships like that before?" "No," Emma replied. "But I have a bad feeling about this." Group of tall, gray-skinned aliens emerged from the ships. They moved with purpose, carrying strange weapons that glowed with blue energy. The leader was taller than the others, with large black eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. "Citizens of this human settlement," the alien announced in a cold, mechanical voice, "we are the Keth Dominion. We are looking for the family of Captain Jake Miller. Emma's blood went cold. Somehow these aliens knew Jake's name. I don't know who you're talking about, Mayor Davidson said, stepping forward. This is a peaceful farming colony. We don't have any military personnel here. The alien leader turned its dark eyes toward the mayor. Do not lie to us, human. Our records show that Emma Miller and her offspring live in this settlement. You will bring them to us immediately. Emma wanted to run, but she knew it was too late. The aliens had already spotted her standing near the town center. There, one of the aliens said, pointing at Emma. That is the female from our records. The leader walked toward Emma with slow, deliberate steps. You are Emma Miller, maid of Captain Jake Miller. Yes, Emma said, lifting her chin defiantly. What do you want? Your mate was a fool, the alien replied. He interfered with Keth operations. He stole classified information. He destroyed one of our ships. Emma felt a surge of pride mixed with grief. Jake had died fighting these creatures. He was a good man, she said. He was trying to protect innocent people. He was chaos, the alien said coldly. And chaos must be eliminated completely. We cannot allow his genetic line to continue. His offspring might carry his unpredictable nature. The other colonists began to understand what was happening. Mayor, Davidson stepped between Emma and the aliens. You can't just kill innocent people, he shouted. These are civilians, children. The alien leader barely glanced at him. Your species' attachment to emotional concepts like innocence is precisely why you are dangerous. Children grow into adults. Adults spread chaos. One of the other aliens raised its weapon and fired a blue beam at Mayor Davidson. He screamed once and then collapsed, his body smoking. The colonists began to panic. Some ran toward their homes, others tried to hide behind buildings, but the Keth had positioned their forces strategically. There was nowhere to run. Bring the offspring, the leader commanded. 2 aliens moved toward Emma's house. She tried to run after them, but another alien grabbed her arm with crushing strength. Ben, Anna, Emma screamed. Hide, run. But it was too late. The aliens dragged her children out of the house. Ben was crying, and Anna was trying to be brave, but Emma could see the terror in her daughter's eyes. Please, Emma begged. They're just children. They haven't done anything wrong. They carry Jake Miller's genetic code, the alien leader said matter-of-factly. That makes them potentially dangerous. The Keth Dominion does not take chances with chaos. Emma struggled against the alien holding her, but its grip was like iron. What do you want from us? Nothing, the leader replied. This is not about obtaining something. This is about sending a message. The alien raised a small device and began speaking into it. Emma realized with horror that it was recording. Citizens of Earth, the alien said to the device. This is what happens to those who oppose the Keth Dominion. Your Captain Jake Miller thought he could defy galactic order. He was wrong. Now his genetic line pays the price. The alien gestured to its soldiers. Begin the demonstration. What happened next would haunt the galaxy for generations. The Keth didn't just kill Emma and her children quickly. They made it slow, methodical, and visible to the recording device. They wanted Earth to see exactly what happened to families of humans who dared to resist. Emma's last thoughts were not of fear or pain, but of pride in her husband and hope that somehow, somewhere, someone would make these monsters pay for what they had done. When the Keth finished with the Miller family, they turned their weapons on the rest of the colony. Over 300 innocent farmers, teachers, and children were killed in what the Keth called a cleansing operation. The entire massacre was recorded and broadcast across Keth space as a warning to other species. The message was clear. This is what happens when you challenge the natural order. But the Keth made a critical error. Their broadcast was designed to be transmitted only within their own territory. But human intelligence networks had been quietly monitoring Keth communications for months. The signal was intercepted by a listening post on Proxima Station. General Chen was in a strategy meeting. When the emergency alert came through, the holographic display in the war room suddenly activated, showing the horrific recording from Haven Colony. The room fell silent as they watched Emma Miller's final moments. Hardened military officers who had seen combat across the galaxy found themselves unable to speak. When the recording ended, the silence stretched for nearly a minute. "How long ago did this happen?" General Chen asked quietly. 6 hours, replied Lieutenant Torres, his voice barely a whisper. "The signal just reached us." Admiral Brooks stood up slowly, his face pale with rage. "Those bastards. They didn't just kill soldiers. They murdered children." "This changes everything," President Williams said over the communication link from Earth. "The Keth aren't just conquerors, they're genocidal monsters." Dr. Martinez was staring at the tactical display showing the location of Haven Colony. "They're not just trying to eliminate military threats, they're trying to wipe out human genetics entirely." General Chen looked around the room at her officers. She saw the same expression on every face, cold, calculating fury. "Gentlemen," she said calmly, "I believe our plans have just changed." "What do you mean?" Admiral Brooks asked. "I mean, we're not just defending ourselves anymore," Chen replied. "We're going to wipe the Keth Dominion off the face of the galaxy." The recording of the Haven Colony massacre was transmitted to every human military base, every colony, and every ship in space. Within hours, it had been seen by every human being in existence. The reaction was immediate and universal. Humans across the galaxy stopped what they were doing and enlisted in the military. Pacifist colonies that had never had armies began building weapons. Scientists abandoned their research to work on military projects. But most importantly, the massacre had awakened something primal in the human species. For the first time in their history, every human being shared the same goal: complete and total revenge. The Keth had wanted to send a message about what happened to chaotic species who opposed them. The message was received. Now, humanity was going to send a message of their own. Admiral Vex and his officers were still sleeping peacefully in their hibernation chambers, unaware that their demonstration had just turned a defensive species into an offensive one. They had thought that killing Jake Miller's family would break human spirit. Instead, they had just guaranteed their own extinction. The age of Keth dominance was about to end. The age of human fury was about to begin. High Admiral Vex woke from his hibernation to the sound of alarms screaming throughout his flagship. His body felt heavy and slow as he climbed out of the sleeping chamber, but his mind quickly became alert when he saw the panic on his bridge. "Report," Vex commanded as he took his command chair. Commander Nix rushed to his side, his gray face pale with fear. "Admiral, we're under attack. Multiple human fleets have appeared simultaneously across 17 of our systems." Vex stared at his subordinate in disbelief. "That's impossible. The humans don't have the technology for coordinated multi-system attacks." "Sir, they do now," Nix replied, bringing up the tactical display. The holographic screen showed the nightmare that Vex had never imagined possible. Hundreds of human ships were appearing throughout Keth space, not randomly, but in perfect coordination. They struck military bases, government centers, and fleet formations with surgical precision. "How many ships?" Vex asked. "Over 2,000, sir. And they're not like the vessel we destroyed. These are purpose-built warships designed specifically to fight us." Vex looked at the ship designs on his screen. The human vessels were angular and aggressive, bristling with weapons that his sensors couldn't identify. They moved with deadly purpose, ignoring Keith's attempts at communication. "They're not responding to surrender requests," Nix continued. "They're not taking prisoners. They're simply destroying everything Keth." "Contact the human fleet commander," Vex ordered. "We need to negotiate." "Sir, we've tried. They're not answering." For the first time in his long military career, Admiral Vex felt something he had never experienced before: fear. Admiral Brooks stood on the bridge of the Retribution, humanity's newest and most powerful warship. Around him, his crew worked with cold efficiency, coordinating the largest military operation in human history. "Admiral," reported Captain Davis from the communication station, "the Keth flagship is trying to contact us." "Ignore them," Brooks replied without emotion. "Continue the attack." On the main screen, he could see the Keth military base on Kepler 438b burning. Human plasma cannons had turned the once mighty fortress into a sea of fire and twisted metal. "Sir, called Lieutenant Torres from the tactical station. Fleet Group 7 reports complete destruction of the Keth shipyards at Wolf 359. Fleet Group 12 has eliminated the government complex on Proxima Centauri B. Brooks nodded. Everything was going according to plan. For 8 months, humanity had prepared for this moment. They had studied every piece of data from Jake Miller's final transmission. They had analyzed the Keth's tactics, their technology, and most importantly, their weaknesses. The Keth were powerful, but they had one fatal flaw. They were predictable. Admiral, Dr. Martinez's voice came through the communication system. From Earth. Our intelligence teams have confirmed the locations of all major Keth hibernation facilities. The majority of their leadership is still sleeping. Perfect, Brooks replied. Continue with Phase 2. Across 17 star systems, human fleets moved with deadly precision. They didn't fight like other species the Keth had encountered. There were no formal declarations of war, no attempts at negotiation, no mercy for the defeated. The humans fought like a species with nothing left to lose. Commander Zek woke to find his hibernation chamber filled with smoke. Emergency lights flashed red throughout the facility, and he could hear explosions echoing through the corridors. He stumbled out of his chamber and found chaos. Other Keth officers were awakening in panic, confused and disoriented. The hibernation facility, which had been considered the safest place in Keth space, was under attack. What's happening? Zek asked a passing technician. Humans, sir. They've found all our sleeping facilities. They're destroying everything. Zek ran to the nearest command center and found a scene of utter devastation on the monitors. Human ships surrounded their facility, methodically destroying every defensive system. But what horrified him most was the efficiency of the attack. The humans weren't acting out of blind rage. They were surgical, precise, and absolutely ruthless. Sir, called out one of the technicians, they're broadcasting something. The main screen activated, showing a human female in military uniform. Behind her, Zek could see the bridge of a human warship. This is General Chen of the Earth Defense Force, the human said. Citizens of the galaxy, today you witness the end of the Keth Dominion. For too long, this species has terrorized the universe, destroying entire civilizations in the name of order. The screen split to show images from across Keth space. Military bases burning, government buildings collapsing, and Keth ships fleeing in panic. The Keth believed that chaos was dangerous. General Chen continued. Today, they learn what happens when chaos becomes organized. High Admiral Vex watched his empire crumble on the tactical display. In just 6 hours, the humans had destroyed centuries of Keth expansion. Military bases that had taken decades to build were reduced to rubble. Fleets that had conquered dozens of species were scattered and burning. Admiral, Commander Nix said, desperately. We need to evacuate. The humans are targeting this facility next. Vex looked at his second-in-command with tired eyes. Where would we go, Nix? Look at the display. They're everywhere. It was true. Human fleets had appeared simultaneously across Keth space, striking at targets that should have been secret. Somehow, the humans had discovered the location of every major Keth installation. Sir, incoming transmission from the human fleet. Put it through, Vex ordered. A human male appeared on screen. He was older, with gray hair and cold blue eyes. Behind him, Vex could see other humans working at their stations with mechanical precision. I am Admiral Brooks, the human said. You are High Admiral Vex. Yes, Vex replied. Admiral Brooks, surely we can negotiate. No, Brooks interrupted. You made negotiation impossible when you murdered Jake Miller's family. Vex felt his heart sink. The human demonstration on Haven Colony had been meant to intimidate Earth into submission. Instead, it had awakened something terrible. That was a legitimate military action, Vex said weakly. We were maintaining galactic order. You murdered children, Brooks replied, his voice filled with controlled fury. You recorded it, you broadcast it as entertainment. The children carried dangerous genetic traits. Stop, Brooks commanded. I don't want to hear your justifications. I'm calling to inform you that the Keth Dominion is ended. Your military is destroyed. Your government is eliminated. Your colonies are surrendering. Vex looked at his tactical display again. It was true. Red markers showing destroyed Keth facilities covered the map. In less than 12 hours, an empire that had lasted 1,000,000 years was being wiped from existence. "What do you want from us?" Vex asked. "Nothing," Brooks replied. "This isn't a conquest, this is an extermination." The transmission ended. Captain Lisa Wong stood on the observation deck of the Vengeance, watching the last Keth fortress burn. She had been Jake Miller's science officer on the Defiant, one of the few crew members who had been on shore leave when the ship was destroyed. For 8 months, she had worked with human scientists and engineers, helping them understand Keth technology. For 8 months, she had prepared for this moment. "Captain," her communications officer called out, "we're receiving surrender transmissions from 17 Keth colonies." "Ignore them," Lisa replied. "Continue the bombardment." "Ma'am, they're civilians, families with children." Lisa turned to look at her officer. "Did the Keth consider that when they murdered Emma Miller and her twins?" The communications officer fell silent. Lisa turned back to watch the fortress burn. She thought about Jake, about his wife and children, about all the species the Keth had destroyed over the millennia. "The Keth called us dangerous because we were unpredictable," she said to her crew. Today, they learned the difference between dangerous and deadly. The war, if it could be called that, lasted exactly 43 hours. When it was over, the Keth Dominion no longer existed. Their military was destroyed, their government was eliminated, and their surviving population was scattered across the galaxy as refugees. Humanity had revealed technologies that no one knew they possessed. Weapons that could destroy planets, ships that could travel faster than anything in known space, and most terrifyingly, the ability to coordinate massive military operations across multiple star systems with perfect timing. But the most shocking revelation was not technological, it was psychological. Humans had shown the galaxy what happened when a peaceful species was pushed too far. General Chen stood before the Galactic Council, addressing representatives from hundreds of species. Many of them looked at her with fear, others with respect. "The Keth Dominion proclaimed that chaos was dangerous to galactic stability," she said. "They were wrong. What's dangerous to galactic stability is the systematic murder of innocent families." She activated a holographic display showing the destroyed Keth Empire. "Humanity is returning to our policy of peaceful exploration. We will continue to discover new worlds, make new friends, and push the boundaries of knowledge. But let this be a warning to any species that considers threatening our families." The display changed to show images of human fleets returning to their home systems. "We are explorers and scientists. We are teachers and farmers. We are peaceful by nature," General Chen continued. "But we remember our dead." She looked directly at the assembled alien representatives. Jake Miller died protecting this galaxy from a genocidal empire. Emma Miller and her children died because they carried his name. Today the Keth Dominion died because they forgot that. Sometimes the most dangerous predator is the one that appears harmless. The council chamber was silent. "Humanity returns to exploration," General Chen concluded. "We hope to meet you as friends. We suggest you ensure that we never meet you as enemies." As the human delegation left the council chambers, Ambassador Trawl of the Vegan Confederacy turned to his aide. "Make a note," he said quietly. "Never, under any circumstances, harm a human's family." "Yes, sir," the aide replied. "Should I mark that as a suggestion or a law?" Trawl watched the human ships disappear into hyperspace. "Mark it as a law of nature," he said. Throughout the galaxy, the message was clear. Humanity had proven that they were not just dangerous when they were chaotic. They were absolutely lethal when they were organized. The age of human exploration had begun again. But now, every species in the galaxy knew exactly what happened to those who threatened the explorers' families. Jake Miller and his crew had been avenged. Emma Miller and her children would be remembered. And the Keth Dominion would serve as a permanent reminder of what happened when someone made the mistake of awakening humanity's fury.
The stars twinkled quietly in the darkness of space as the exploration vessel Pioneer moved through the uncharted system. Captain Robert James stood on the bridge, watching the main screen as it displayed data from their latest scan. This was their third week mapping this sector, and so far, they had found nothing but empty planets and space rocks. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange," said Mike from his station at the sensor controls. His fingers moved quickly across the screen as he tried to get a better reading. "It's big, and it's moving fast." Robert walked over to Mike's station and looked at the readings. After 15 years in space, he had learned to trust his crew's instincts. "Can you tell what it is?" "No, sir. It's not matching any known signatures in our database." Mike's voice held a note of worry. "Whatever it is, it's changing course. I think it's heading straight for us." Robert didn't hesitate. "Sound general quarters. Everyone to battle stations." As alarms began to ring throughout the ship, he turned to his communications officer. "Jack, send a message back to Neptune Station. Tell them we've encountered an unknown vessel and are taking precautions." The crew moved with practiced efficiency, even though none of them had seen real combat. Humanity had been alone in space for so long that their weapons were mostly for show, or so they had thought. A massive ship appeared on their main screen. It was sleek and gray, with a design unlike anything human engineers had ever created. Its surface seemed to shimmer and shift, as if the metal itself was alive. "Sir, they're not responding to any of our greeting protocols," Jack reported, his voice tense. "I've tried all standard frequencies and first contact procedures." Robert opened his mouth to give another order, but before he could speak, the alien ship fired. A beam of energy cut through space, missing the Pioneer by mere meters. The ship shook from the near miss. "Return fire," Robert ordered. "All hands, brace for evasive maneuvers." He grabbed his chair as the Pioneer twisted away from another blast. Their own weapons seemed to have little effect on the alien ship's strange, shifting hull. The next few minutes were chaos. The Pioneer was a research vessel with some defensive capabilities, but it wasn't built for a fight like this. The alien ship was faster, stronger, and had weapons that seemed to ignore half of their shields. "Hull breach on Deck 3. Someone shouted. "Emergency containment fields holding." Robert watched as another blast from the alien ship tore through their port side. But in that moment of destruction, something unexpected happened. A piece of the alien vessel's hull had broken off during their exchange of fire and become embedded in the Pioneer's damaged section. "Engineering reports critical damage to the main drive," Mike called out. "We can't take another hit like that." Robert made the hardest decision a captain could make. Plot an emergency jump back to Neptune Station. "We're getting out of here." As his crew rushed to comply, he added, "And make sure we keep that section of hull with the alien fragment. Something tells me it might be important." The Pioneer's engines screamed as they pushed the damaged ship to its limits. The alien vessel followed, but as they approached the jump point, it suddenly pulled back. Robert didn't understand why until he saw the readings. They were about to jump through an asteroid field. It was incredibly dangerous. But they had no choice. "Jump drive engaged," the ship's computer announced. "Warning. Structural integrity at 47%. Jump not recommended. Override safety protocols," Robert commanded. "Execute jump now." The familiar sensation of a jump felt different this time. The damaged ship shuddered and groaned as space bent around them. Warning lights flashed across every console on the bridge. But somehow, they made it. The Pioneer emerged from the jump near Neptune Station, trailing debris and venting atmosphere from multiple breaches. Emergency crews were already waiting for them, having received their earlier warning message. As medical teams treated the injured and repair crews swarmed over the ship's hull, Robert met with his chief engineer, Tom, in what remained of their engineering bay. They stood looking at the alien hull fragment, which seemed to be slowly moving, almost as if it was trying to repair itself. "I've never seen anything like it," Tom said, running a scanner over the material. "This metal, if you can even call it that. It's not just damage, it's adapting, trying to integrate with our hull somehow. Robert thought about the way the alien ship's hull had shifted during the battle, how it had seemed to absorb their weapons' fire. Could we learn something from this? Something that might help us if they come back. Tom picked up a small piece that had broken off and held it under a microscope. His eyes widened. Captain, this isn't just advanced technology. This could change everything we know about shipbuilding. But we're going to need help. The best scientists Earth has to offer. Robert nodded, already composing his report in his head. He knew the alien ship would return, probably with friends next time. They had gotten lucky today, but luck wouldn't be enough for round 2. They needed to understand this technology, and fast. As he left engineering, Robert passed by the ship's memorial wall, where they listed crew members lost in the line of duty. Today, they would be adding 3 new names. He placed his hand on the wall and made a silent promise. They would not only survive the next encounter, they would win it. Back on the bridge, Robert looked out at Neptune Station's familiar shape. The Pioneer was hurt but not destroyed. Her crew was bloodied but not beaten. And most importantly, they had something the aliens hadn't meant to give them, a key to their technology. The aliens had made a mistake in attacking them. They had assumed humans would be easy prey, that damaging their ship would be enough to destroy their spirit. Instead, they had given humanity exactly what it needed, a challenge to rise to and the tools to do it with. As repair crews continued their work, Robert sent a priority message to Earth Command. The title was simple: First Contact Incident, Request for Emergency Research Initiative. He knew that somewhere in that alien hull fragment was humanity's future. They just had to be smart enough to unlock it. 3 days after the Pioneer limped back to Neptune Station, the research lab was buzzing with activity. Tom hadn't slept much, spending every waking moment studying the alien hull fragment. He watched in amazement as the piece continued to shift and change under various tests, sometimes even responding to electrical impulses from their equipment. Dr. Lisa Anderson arrived from Earth's Advanced Materials Division, bringing with her a team of the best scientists humanity had to offer. She walked into the lab, her eyes immediately drawn to the shifting metal displayed behind a containment field. "It's even more remarkable than the report suggested," she said, pulling out her own specialized scanning equipment. "Have you tried exposing it to different energy frequencies?" Tom nodded, pulling up his test results on a nearby screen. "It responds most actively to electromagnetic pulses. Watch this." He sent a carefully controlled burst of energy toward the fragment. The metal rippled like water, its surface reorganizing itself at the molecular level. "It's not just repairing itself," Lisa said, studying the readings. "It's learning, adapting to become stronger against whatever damaged it." She turned to Tom with excitement in her eyes. "Do you realize what this means? This isn't just advanced technology, it's programmable matter." Their discussion was interrupted as Admiral William Stone entered the lab. He was an imposing figure, known for his skepticism of new technologies. "I've read your preliminary reports," he said, looking at the alien fragment with suspicion. "They seem a bit far-fetched." Captain James, who had been quietly observing from the corner, stepped forward. "Sir, I watched that ship's hull adapt during combat. If we can understand this technology, we could revolutionize our fleet's capabilities." The Admiral frowned. "And if we can't control it? What if this is some kind of trap? For all we know, this material could be reporting back to them." Lisa quickly pulled up her latest scan results. "We've checked for any kind of transmission signals. The material itself isn't capable of long-range communication. It's more like programmable clay, incredibly advanced. Yes, but ultimately just a building material." Tom added, "And we're already making progress in understanding how to control it. Look at this." He pressed a few buttons on his console, sending a specific sequence of energy pulses to the fragment. The metal responded by forming a perfect sphere, then shifting back to its original shape. The Admiral's eyebrows rose slightly. Impressive party trick, but how does this help us defend against their ships? Because we're not just copying their technology, Tom explained, growing excited. We're improving it. The Greys use this material in a basic way, strengthening their hulls, adapting to damage. But we've discovered it can do so much more. Lisa stepped in. We've been analyzing it with our most advanced AI systems. The potential applications are incredible. Imagine a ship that could instantly reform its hull to deflect incoming fire or repair damage in seconds. But more than that, we could create ships that adapt their entire structure based on the situation. The Admiral still looked skeptical, but there was now a glimmer of interest in his eyes. How long until you could have a working prototype? With proper funding and resources, Lisa calculated quickly, 6 months for a small-scale test vessel. The material can be replicated once we understand its basic structure. We've already started the process. Captain James spoke up again. Sir, the Greys will return. When they do, they'll expect to find us still trying to repair our conventional ships. Instead, we could have something they've never seen before. The Admiral was quiet for a long moment, studying the shifting metal. Finally, he nodded. You have 3 months. Show me something concrete, and I'll back full production. As the Admiral left, the team immediately got back to work. Tom and Lisa spent hours discussing potential applications, while other scientists ran continuous tests on the material. They discovered that the alien metal responded particularly well to human AI systems, almost as if it had been designed for a more advanced control system than the Greys were using. Over the next few weeks, progress moved faster than anyone had expected. They learned that the material could be programmed with basic protocols that would remain active even without constant AI control. They also discovered that it could integrate with traditional human technology, creating hybrid systems that were better than either technology alone. The breakthrough came 1 month into their research. Late one night, Tom was running a routine test when he noticed something unusual. The fragment was responding to their latest AI interface in a way they hadn't seen before. He immediately called Lisa. Look at this, he said, showing her the readings. The AI isn't just controlling the material, it's communicating with it. The molecular structure is reorganizing itself based on the AI's predictions and analysis. Lisa's eyes widened as she understood the implications. It's a true symbiosis. The AI learns from how the material responds, and the material adapts based on what the AI learns. This is beyond anything the Greys demonstrated. They worked through the night, refining the interface. By morning, they had a small piece of the material forming complex structures on command, each one more efficient than the last as the AI learned and adapted. When they presented their findings to the Admiral a week later, the demonstration left no room for doubt. They showed how a small drone made with the hybrid technology could change its shape mid-flight, adapt to damage instantly, and even split into smaller units before reforming. The Admiral watched as the drone performed maneuvers that should have been impossible. How soon can we scale this up? We've already started, Lisa replied. The first full-size prototype ship is in early construction. We're calling it the Phoenix Project. Captain James, who had been overseeing the military applications, added, Every test has exceeded our expectations. The material doesn't just make our ships stronger, it makes them smarter. Each vessel will be able to learn and adapt during battle, something the Greys never considered. The Admiral's approval came through that afternoon. Within hours, secure messages were being sent throughout the solar system. Resources were reallocated, production facilities were converted, and humanity's greatest engineering project began in earnest. As Tom watched construction begin on the first prototype, he couldn't help but smile. The Greys had attacked them, thinking they would find an easy target. Instead, they had given humanity exactly what it needed to surpass them. They had assumed humans would only try to copy their technology. They never considered that humans would improve it. Lisa joined him at the observation window, watching as robotic assemblers began laying down the first layers of the new hull. You know what the best part is? She asked. Every ship we build will be better than the last. The AI never stops learning, and neither do we. The Phoenix was taking shape before their eyes, its hull shimming with possibilities. It wasn't just a ship. It was humanity's answer to those who thought they could be easily conquered. And it was only the beginning. The prototype ship Phoenix floated in the construction dock near Neptune Station, its hull gleaming with an otherworldly shine. After 6 months of round-the-clock work, the vessel was ready for its first real test. Tom stood at the observation window, remembering how it all started with a small fragment of alien metal. Now they had built something that would change everything. Final systems check is complete, Lisa announced from her station in the control room. She had dark circles under her eyes from working long hours, but her voice was filled with excitement. The AI integration is stable, and the hull is responding perfectly to all test signals. Captain James walked into the control room, now wearing the uniform of a fleet commander. The success of the Phoenix project had earned him a promotion. "Are we ready for the first live trial?" "Yes, sir," Tom replied, double-checking his readings. "We've run every possible simulation. The Phoenix is ready to show us what it can do." The test crew boarded the ship, led by Commander Mike Peters, who had served on the Pioneer during the original alien encounter. As they watched the crew settle into their stations, Lisa pulled up the main display showing the Phoenix's internal systems. "Look at this," she said, pointing to the readings. "The hull is already adapting to the crew's presence, adjusting internal temperatures and gravity fields for optimal comfort. The AI is learning their preferences in real time." The Phoenix's engines came to life, a soft blue glow emanating from its advanced drive system. Unlike traditional ships, the Phoenix could reshape its engine configuration on the fly, optimizing for different types of movement. As it slowly moved out of the dock, its hull rippled slightly, adjusting to the space environment. "Beginning basic maneuver tests," Mike's voice came through the comm system. The Phoenix moved forward, then executed a series of turns that would have torn a normal ship apart. Its hull flowed like liquid metal, redistributing stress and maintaining perfect structural integrity. "Incredible," the Admiral muttered, having arrived just in time to witness the demonstration. "But can it fight?" "Deploying combat drones," Mike announced. A swarm of automated attackers emerged from a nearby hangar, their weapons loaded with special testing charges designed to simulate real combat. The Phoenix's response exceeded everyone's expectations. As the drones attacked, the ship's hull transformed. Armor thickened at impact points seconds before shots landed. Weapon ports appeared and disappeared across its surface, firing from unexpected angles. The AI was learning and adapting with each exchange, making the ship more effective with every passing moment. "Sir," one of the technicians called out, "the Phoenix's combat effectiveness is increasing exponentially. It's developing new defensive patterns we didn't program into it." They watched in amazement as the ship performed maneuvers that should have been impossible. When 3 drones concentrated their fire on one spot, the Phoenix's hull didn't just absorb the impact. It created a concave structure that reflected the energy back at the attackers. "That's new," Tom said, quickly analyzing the data. "The AI combined our reflective shielding technology with the adaptive hull material. It invented a new defense system on the spot." The demonstration continued for another hour, with the Phoenix displaying increasingly sophisticated tactics. By the end, the combat drones hadn't scored a single significant hit, while the Phoenix had disabled all of them using minimal power. "The best part," Lisa explained to the Admiral, "is that everything the Phoenix learned during this test will be shared with all future ships we build. Each vessel learns from the others, creating a constantly evolving defense network." The Admiral nodded slowly, clearly impressed. "And you're certain the Greys can't hack or override these systems?" "The AI integration is entirely our own design," Tom assured him. "We only use their hull material as a foundation. The control systems, the learning algorithms, the tactical adaptations, those are all human innovations. They won't be expecting any of this." Commander Mike's voice came through again. Request permission to test the emergency reconstruction protocols. The Admiral raised an eyebrow. Emergency reconstruction. Watch this, Lisa said with a smile. She sent a command to one of the remaining functional drones, which fired a concentrated blast at the Phoenix's bow. The shot created a significant hole in the hull, but within seconds, the damage began to repair itself. The surrounding material flowed like water, rebuilding the damaged section stronger than before. The ship doesn't just heal damage, Tom explained. It learns from it. That section of hull is now twice as resistant to the same type of attack. The more they try to hurt it, the stronger it becomes. The Admiral watched for a few more minutes as the Phoenix demonstrated its full range of capabilities. Finally, he turned to the team. How soon can we begin full production? We've already modified the shipyards around Mars and Venus, Lisa replied. With the resources you've allocated, we can complete a ship every 2 weeks. Each one will be more advanced than the last as we incorporate new improvements. And we've solved the raw material supply issue, Tom added. Once we understood the basic molecular structure, we found a way to create the adaptive material using elements from asteroid mining. We can produce as much as we need. The Admiral's next question was interrupted by an alert from the long-range sensor station. A technician quickly pulled up the data. Sir, we're detecting unusual activity at the edge of the system. The energy signatures, they match the gray ship that attacked the Pioneer. Instead of concern, the Admiral smiled slightly. Perfect timing. Commander Peters, maintain position but power down all non-essential systems. Let's not show our hand just yet. He turned to Tom and Lisa. How many ships can we have ready in 3 months? At current production rates, with all shipyards running at full capacity, Lisa calculated quickly. 50 ships minimum, each one equipped with the latest versions of everything we've developed. The Admiral nodded. The Greys think they're coming back to finish what they started. Instead, they're going to find out exactly what happens when you underestimate humanity. He looked out at the Phoenix, its hull now calm and seemingly ordinary. They damaged our ship, thinking it would break us. Instead, they gave us exactly what we needed to surpass them. As the alert lights continued to flash, showing more gray ships arriving at the system's edge, the prototype Phoenix floated silently in space. Its eye was already planning new improvements, its hull ready to transform at a moment's notice. Throughout the solar system, shipyards hummed with activity as humanity prepared its response to the alien aggression. The Greys had made a crucial mistake. They had assumed humans would be easy prey, that damaging their ship would demoralize them. They never considered that humans would take that damage and turn it into the greatest technological leap in their history. Soon, they would learn the cost of that mistake. The massive shipyards around Mars glowed with constant activity as another Phoenix-class vessel took shape. From his observation post, Tom watched the robotic assemblers work with incredible precision, laying down layer after layer of the adaptive hull material. This was the 30th ship they had built, and each one was better than the last. On the main production floor, Lisa coordinated with teams from across the solar system. The Europa Deep Space specialists had developed new sensor arrays that could detect gray ships from twice the previous range. Mars engineers had refined the propulsion systems, making them even more efficient. Every colony was contributing its unique expertise to the project. Production report just came in from Venus Station, Lisa said, looking up from her datapad. They've completed their 15th ship. That puts us at 45 total, with 5 more under construction. Tom nodded, checking the latest performance data from their completed vessels. And each one is showing better integration rates than we expected. The shared AI network is learning faster than we predicted. The AI network had been Tom's idea, linking all the ships together so they could learn from each other's experiences. When one ship discovered a more efficient way to handle a problem, all the others immediately absorbed that knowledge. It created a constantly evolving fleet that grew smarter by the hour. Long-range sensors are picking up more gray ships gathering at the system's edge. a technician reported. They're being cautious this time, building up their forces before moving in. They think they're being clever, Lisa said with a slight smile. They have no idea we can see them. The new sensor arrays are working perfectly. They're completely invisible to their detection systems. The door opened and Captain James walked in, now wearing the insignia of a fleet admiral. Status report. Everything's on schedule, Tom replied. The last 5 ships will be complete within 2 weeks. All existing vessels are running combat drills with their crews. The admiral nodded, watching as another section of hull was fitted into place on the newest ship. And the special modifications. Ready for testing, Lisa said. She pulled up a detailed schematic on the main screen. We've managed to integrate the cloaking technology from Europa's deep space program with the adaptive hull material. The ships can now literally bend light around themselves, becoming completely invisible. It had been a breakthrough nobody expected. The scientists on Europa, used to hiding research stations from Earth's telescopes, had figured out how to make the adaptive hull manipulate light itself. When combined with their other advances, it gave the human fleet capabilities far beyond what the Greys could imagine. We've also solved the power management issue, Tom added. The new reactor designs from the Mercury solar stations are providing 30% more energy than we initially planned for. The ships can maintain full combat operations longer than any Grey vessel. An alert sounded from one of the monitoring stations. The technician quickly pulled up the data. Sir, we're detecting energy signatures consistent with Grey scout ships. They're probing the outer system. Let them look, the admiral said calmly. All ships maintain emission control protocols. As far as they can tell, we're still trying to rebuild our conventional fleet. The deception had been carefully planned. While the new fleet was being built in secret, they had made sure the Greys could see obvious signs of traditional shipbuilding activity. Old-style ships were moved between stations, creating the impression of a desperate reconstruction effort. Mercury Station reports their last 2 ships are ahead of schedule, Lisa announced. They'll be complete in 10 days instead of 14. Tom walked over to a different display, showing the status of their fighter squadrons. The same adaptive technology that made their capital ships so effective had been miniaturized for smaller craft. Squadrons of advanced fighters were hidden throughout the system, ready to launch at a moment's notice. Sir, the sensor operator called out, the Grey scout ships are approaching Neptune's orbit. They're being very careful to stay outside our conventional detection range. The admiral smiled slightly, and our new sensors are tracking their every move. Keep monitoring them. I want to know the moment they report back to their main fleet. They didn't have to wait long. Within hours, the scout ships began transmitting data back to the Grey fleet gathering at the system's edge. The encoded transmissions were easily intercepted by the new sensor arrays, and human AI systems quickly decoded them. They're reporting exactly what we wanted them to see, Lisa said, reading the decoded message. According to their scouts, we're struggling to rebuild with outdated technology. They think we're vulnerable. The admiral turned to address the entire control room. This is what we've been waiting for. Send the coded alert to all ships and stations. Begin final preparation sequences. When they come in force, we'll be ready. Throughout the solar system, crews began final checks on their vessels. The ship's AIs continued to learn and adapt, preparing for combat scenarios they might face. Every piece of technology had been tested and refined. Every system pushed to its limits and beyond. Message from the Phoenix, a communications officer announced. Commander Peters reports all systems are operating at peak efficiency. Combat AI is showing unprecedented adaptation rates. The Phoenix had exceeded all expectations during its trials. As the first of its kind, it had provided valuable data that improved every ship that followed. Now it would lead the fleet into battle, commanded by the same crew that had survived the original Grey attack. New sensor contacts, the technician reported. The main Grey fleet is moving. Based on their formation and speed, they're preparing for a full-scale assault. Tom and Lisa exchanged looks. Everything they had worked for was about to be tested. Months of research, innovation, and preparation would soon face the ultimate trial. "They think they're coming to finish what they started," the admiral said, watching the tactical display as it tracked the approaching gray fleet. "Instead, they're about to learn what happens when you give humanity a reason to surpass you." Throughout the shipyards, the last vessels were receiving their final adjustments. Crews moved with quiet efficiency, preparing for the battle to come. The AI network hummed with activity as ships shared data and refined their combat protocols. The Greys were coming, confident in their superiority. They expected to find a weakened human civilization, struggling to recover from their first attack. What they would find instead was a fleet unlike anything they had ever encountered, built using their own technology, but improved in ways they had never imagined. The final countdown had begun. Humanity's response to alien aggression was about to be revealed, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Gray Fleet entered the solar system with overwhelming force. Over 100 warships moved in tight formation, their hulls gleaming in the distant sunlight. Their sensors swept the area, expecting to find a few struggling human vessels. Instead, they found nothing. The space around Mars and Earth appeared empty, showing only civilian ships and stations. In the hidden command center beneath Europa's icy surface, Admiral James watched the tactical display with his senior officers. The Gray Fleet's positions were clearly visible thanks to their advanced sensor network, while the human fleet remained invisible, hidden by their new cloaking technology. "They're moving exactly as predicted," said the tactical officer. "Main force is heading toward Earth, while smaller groups branch toward Mars and Venus." The admiral nodded. "They think we're hiding. Little do they know, we're right in front of them." He turned to the communication station. "Send the signal. Operation Phoenix is now active." Throughout the solar system, 50 advanced ships powered up their systems. Each vessel had been strategically positioned along the Gray Fleet's expected approach paths. The Phoenix, commanded by Mike Peters, led the largest group positioned between the Greys and Earth. "All ships reporting ready," Lisa announced from her station monitoring the fleet's AI network. "Combat systems online. Adaptive protocols active." Tom stood beside her, watching the readiness indicators turn green across the board. "The shared AI network is fully synchronized. All ships are receiving real-time updates and adapting their systems accordingly." The admiral took a deep breath. Begin Phase 1. Across the void of space, 20 human ships simultaneously dropped their cloaking fields. They appeared without warning in the midst of the Gray formation, causing immediate confusion among the alien vessels. Before the Greys could properly react, the human ships opened fire. The battle began with a display of technology that left the Greys reeling. Human weapons cut through space with precision, targeting the weak points in Gray ships that their shared AI had identified. The Phoenix led the attack, its hull constantly shifting to optimize its weapon positions and defensive capabilities. "Gray ships are attempting to coordinate a response," the tactical officer reported. "They're trying to surround our vessels." "Exactly as expected," the admiral said. "Execute Phase 2. Another 15 ships to cloak behind the Gray Fleet, cutting off their retreat and forcing them to split their attention. The human vessels moved with incredible coordination, their shared AI allowing them to function as a single organism rather than individual ships. From his command chair on the Phoenix, Mike watched as a Gray cruiser fired directly at his ship. Instead of taking evasive action, he gave a different order: activate reflective configuration. The Phoenix's hull rippled, transforming into the concave pattern they had discovered during testing. The incoming energy blast hit the reconfigured hull and bounced back toward the Gray ship, striking it with its own weapon fire. The alien vessel's shields failed immediately, and its hull cracked under the impact. Similar scenes played out across the battlefield as human ships demonstrated capabilities the Greys had never seen before. When the aliens adjusted their tactics, the human fleet adapted faster, their AI network constantly learning and evolving. "Gray flagship is attempting to coordinate a new attack pattern," the tactical officer announced. "They're trying to find a weakness in our adaptive systems." The Admiral smiled slightly. Time for Phase 3. Let's show them what true adaptation looks like. The final 15 human ships decloaked, completing the trap. But instead of attacking immediately, these vessels began a remarkable transformation. Their hulls shifted dramatically, changing their entire configuration. Some became smaller, faster attack craft, while others expanded into larger weapons platforms. The gray sensors couldn't keep up with the changes, unable to lock onto targets that constantly redefine themselves. On the Phoenix, Mike received a priority alert from the AI network. "Sir, the Gray flagship is attempting to transmit new control codes to their fleet. They're trying to update their combat protocols." "Perfect," Mike replied. "Activate signal intercept." This had been one of their most closely guarded innovations. Using the adaptive technology and advanced AI systems, human ships could now intercept and analyze enemy communications in real time. As the Gray flagship transmitted its new battle plans, human vessels were already adapting to counter them before they could be implemented. The battle shifted dramatically as the Gray fleet fell into disarray. Their coordinated attack patterns broke down as human ships countered each move before it fully developed. The Phoenix led a direct assault on the Gray flagship, its weapons finding gaps in the alien vessel's defenses with uncanny precision. In the Europa Command Center, Lisa watched the battle unfold with growing excitement. The adaptive learning curve is exceeding all projections. Our ships are developing new combat techniques on the fly. Tom pointed to a particular section of data streaming in. "Look at how they're sharing tactical data. When one ship discovers an effective approach, all others immediately incorporate it. They're evolving faster than the Grays can respond." On the main display, they watched as the Phoenix executed a maneuver that should have been impossible. The ship split into 3 separate sections, each acting independently to attack the Gray flagship from different angles. Then, after causing significant damage, the sections rejoined seamlessly into a single vessel. "That wasn't in any of our combat protocols," Tom said in amazement. "The AI developed that tactic on its own." The Gray fleet began to break formation, individual ships attempting to retreat as they realized the battle was lost. But the human fleet had anticipated this as well. Smaller vessels that had transformed into pursuit craft quickly moved to cut off their escape routes. Gray flagship is sending out a broad distress signal. The communications officer reported. "They're calling for reinforcements." The Admiral nodded calmly. "Let them call. When their reinforcements arrive, they'll find a human fleet that's even more advanced than the one they're facing now." The battle continued for another hour, but the outcome was never in doubt. Human ships demonstrated capabilities that improved with every passing minute, while the Gray vessels relied on tactics and technology that had suddenly become obsolete. When the Gray flagship finally went dark, its systems overloaded by attacks it couldn't counter, the remaining alien vessels attempted a last desperate retreat. Only a handful managed to escape, fleeing toward the edge of the solar system, with human pursuit craft following at a distance, not to destroy them, but to ensure they carried the message of what had happened here. As the fighting died down, the Phoenix returned to its original configuration, though its hull now bore the marks of combat. These weren't weaknesses, however. Each point of impact had been analyzed by the AI and reinforced, making the ship stronger than before. All Gray vessels within the inner system have been neutralized, the tactical officer reported. 15 enemy ships destroyed, 67 disabled, 13 escaped. Our losses? None. All 50 ships remain operational with minimal damage. A cheer went up throughout the command center. Months of work, innovation, and preparation had paid off beyond their wildest expectations. Humanity hadn't just survived. They had emerged victorious against a technologically superior foe. Admiral James looked at the tactical display showing the retreating Gray ships. "Send the order to all vessels. Maintain pursuit, but do not engage unless attacked. I want those ships to reach Gray territory and report what happened here." Tom and Lisa exchanged smiles. The message would be clear. Humanity was not to be underestimated. What had begun with a single damaged ship had led to a technological revolution that had changed the balance of power. In the days that followed, the human fleet continued to evolve. The experience gained in actual combat accelerated their development beyond what any simulation could have achieved. Ships that had already seemed miraculous became even more impressive, incorporating lessons from the battle into their very structure. The gray reinforcements never came. Instead, 3 weeks after the battle, long-range sensors detected a small vessel approaching under a flag of truce. The Greys were sending diplomats, not warriors. The ultimate acknowledgement that their initial assessment of humanity had been catastrophically wrong. Admiral James stood on the bridge of the Phoenix as they prepared to receive the alien representatives. The ship that had been damaged in the first encounter was now the symbol of humanity's ingenuity and resilience. The Greys had attacked them, thinking they would find an easy conquest. Instead, they had given humans exactly what they needed to surpass them. As the Grey diplomatic vessel approached, the Phoenix's hull shifted slightly, its adaptive systems continuously improving even in peacetime. The message was subtle but unmistakable. Attack us again, and you'll face something even more advanced than what defeated you before. The Greys had learned a lesson that would echo across the galaxy. Never underestimate a species that can turn your own technology against you and make it better.